Self-inflicted injury. Trump's tariffs will not spare the United States from economic damage. Economic estimates from United States President Donald Trump's first term suggest that sweeping tariffs his administration imposed on nearly 400 billion worth of goods hurt America's American economy. They also resulted in a net loss in real inflation adjusted GDP, a decline in annual household income, and job losses in the manufacturing sector. A 2019 discussion paper by the Federal Reserve Board disentangling the effects of the 2018-19 tariffs on a globally connected US manufacturing sector found that industries most exposed to tariff increases saw relative reductions in employment. The negative effects of the rising input cost and retaliatory tariffs outweighed the benefits of import protection, leading to a net decline in manufacturing jobs. An estimated 0.6% loss, or about 75,000 fewer jobs that would have existed without the tariffs. Similarly, a 2019 report from the Congressional Budget Office, an update to the Budget and Economic Outlook, projected that trade barriers would reduce US economic output by 2020. The CBO estimated a 0.3% decline in real GDP and a $580 reduction in average real house income. The 25% tariff on iron and steel imports by Mr. Trump in his second term mirrors a similar policy from March 2018. In his first term, Canada, Mexico, and European Union were initially exempted until June 18. After it, retaliatory tariffs followed until a truce was reached in May 2019 through a revised North Atlantic American trade agreement. Economists have pointed to these tariffs, which continued to a large extent under the Biden administration, being one of the factors that contributed to high inflation in the recent years. In 2023, China dominated global steel production with 1,000 million metric tons of per annum, accounting for 54% of global output, followed by India and the US. Despite its domestic production, the US relies heavily on imports from Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. Steel is a critical mineral across industries, including automotive, construction, appliances, and oil and gas. While the American steel industry has welcomed new tariffs, imports are unlikely to decrease immediately as a global surplus driven by China keeps prices competitive. Even a slight increase in steel prices could ripple across the economy, raising costs for consumers struggling with affordability. If history is an indication, Mr. Trump's tariffs may be the start of another round of self inflicted economic damage for an already strained US economy, albeit still the world's largest. Perilous path. Bangladesh is displaying an intolerant streak against minorities after the government of Sheikh Hasina was brought down by a student-led uprising on August 5, 2024. Bangladesh new rulers, a military-backed interim government led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, promised a new beginning. 6 months later, the country of 170 million is far from having a stable political order, let alone a new dawn. The lawlessness across the country was on full display on February 5 when mob demolished the residence of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the first president in Dhanmondi, the trigger being reports of Miss Hasina, who is in exile planning to broadcast a speech on February 5. Protesters circulated their plan outlined to destroy the Banga Bandhu Memorial Museum. Using excavators and bulldozers, they unleashed the attack on the building in the presence of security personnel where the father of the nation was assassinated in 1975. The residences of Miss Hasina and other Awami League leaders were also vandalized. The interim government promised stern action and Mr. Yunus called for calm. But 3 days later, security crackdown targeted Awami League members and saw over 1,000 arrests in a single day. The attack is not an isolated incident. Mr. Yunus and student protesters have accused Mr. Hasina of running an authoritarian regime, Mr. Yunus has also promised to build a Naya Bangladesh with reformed institutions, transparency, and accountability. But 6 months after Miss Hasina's ouster, the interim government has made little progress in its reform agenda, and and has yet to announce a new schedule for general elections. There has been repeated complaints about mob violence against Hindu and Christian minorities, as well as Ahmadiyya Muslims and ethnic minorities of Chittagong Hill Tracts. More than 100 people have been killed since August 5 and at least 11,000 people arrested. Among those arrested are 140 journalists who face murder charges over the reports of the events that led to Ms. Hasina's ouster. The government has also scrapped more than 150 press accreditations which are required for official events and briefings. The Chhatra League, the Awami League's student wing, has been banned. An Human Rights Watch report released in January has warned that those who oppose the Awami League are now mirroring its intolerance for criticism. The Yunus administration and the student leaders are still blaming Ms. Hasina for the lawlessness and violence. This amounts to an absolute abandonment of accountability. Bangladesh cannot progress into a better system if the violence and lawlessness continue. As the ruler, Mr. Yunus has primary responsibility to ensure that law and order prevails. He should also expedite the reform process and then announce elections so that Bangladesh can have an elected, legitimate government at the earliest. A legal remedy that perpetuates survivor trauma. The Allahabad High Court in Atul Gautam vs. State of Uttar Pradesh recently granted bail to a man who has been accused of raping his interfaith living partner. In another case, Abhishek vs. State of Uttar Pradesh, the same High Court had granted bail to a rape accused on the condition that he marry the survivor and care for both her and her newborn child. This reasoning aligns with the precedent set in Ramshakal vs. State of Uttar Pradesh, wherein bail was granted on similar grounds. These cases raise key issues. First, whether courts can impose bail conditions requiring a rape accused to marry the survivor and assume responsibility of her and the child, and second, whether the state is neglecting its responsibility to provide welfare measures for survivors and children born out of such crimes. In Aparna Bhatt versus State of Madhya Pradesh Supreme Court, while issuing guidelines for bail conditions, lay emphasis on points that courts must ensure that the condition of bail strictly prohibit any contact between the accused and the survivor to avoid secondary trauma. The bail condition, which mandate that the accused marry the survivor, violate this guideline. The court also directed that the bail condition not reinforce gender stereotypes and patriarchal norms on women and must comply with CRPC while dealing with Section 437 3C of the court. The court in the Kunal Kumar Tiwari vs. State of Bihar observed that the courts may impose bail conditions in the interest of justice. However, such conditions cannot be arbitrary and extend beyond the ends of provision. However, the system adopted by courts, Atul Gautam, appears to stem from regressive societal perceptions that equate a woman's dignity with her marital status. Such reasoning perpetuates the problematic belief that marriage is a remedy for rape, restoring an alleged loss of purity or honor. This not only violates the autonomy of the survivor but also legitimizes an unequal and coercive marital relationship. Such conditions create a perverse incentive for the accused to manipulate the survivor, furthering the possibility of abuse under the guise of reconciliation. The courts inadvertently reinforce a narrative where the survivor is forced into a dependent relationship with the accused, often without genuine consent. In such cases, marriage might result in abusive behavior under legal protection. The prospect of marriage often becomes a strategic escape route for the accused, allowing bail compromises or even leniency during sentencing. Codes that suggest or facilitate such marriages invent a risk legitimizes the heinous act under the guise of matrimony. Such conditions undermine the integrity of the trial process and survivors' quest for justice. The responsibility of ensuring the welfare of survivors and their children lies squarely with the state in right to privacy of adolescents. The court held that the state must provide essential support such as shelter, food, education, and counseling for victims. The lack of an adequate support system often leaves survivors with no choice but to rely on their perpetrators. This reliance not only perpetuates cycles of exploitation but also violates their fundamental right to live with dignity under Article 21 of the Constitution. By failing to provide holistic support to victims, the state shifts its responsibility to the judiciary, leading to solutions that may conflict with constitutional principles. That creates a perverse mechanism where victims are coerced into dependence on the accused, with the courts further enabling the state's neglect. Granting bail on the condition of marriage during the pendency of a trial is particularly problematic. While considering the question of granting bail, courts are not supposed to look into the merits of the case, as the accused's guilt is to be determined at the stage. Bail hearings and conditions should not influence the trial. However, imposing marriage between the accused and the survivor as the bail condition has irreversible effects, altering their relationship and interpersonal dynamics. Such conditions may affect the trial's outcome and survivors' ability to verify freely. Moreover, if marriage is deemed as a measure for the survivor's welfare, it raises concerns about the court's impartiality in convicting and sentencing the accused, and this could conflict with the survivor's welfare if she becomes dependent on the accused. These practices demand a critical re-evaluation of the judiciary's approach to cases involving rape and other forms of sexual violence. A role for South-South climate cooperation. COP29 at Baku, Azerbaijan, aptly referred to as Climate Finance COP, has played a crucial role in operationalizing core elements of the Article 6 Paris Agreement. The adoption of Article 6 at Baku represents a renewed focus on the market mechanism which could help countries that are often constrained by limited resources and face difficulties in achieving an economy-wide transition to a carbon-neutral economy. Article 6 has the potential to meet climate ambitions through cooperative approaches. Its key component, Article 6.2, facilitates the transfer of an internationally transferred mitigation outcomes between host and partner country to help countries meet their NDCs. By offering flexibility for tailored agreements, the process not only supports emissions reduction in the host country but also fosters technology exchange, promotes capacity building, and facilitates financial resources from the partner country, helping in the transition to a low carbon economy and reaching the sustainable development goals. India, which is considered to be the third largest emitter of the greenhouse gases, though in absolute terms only, and a rapidly growing economy, is well positioned to draw benefits from Article 6.2. Article 6 has the potential to meet climate ambitions through cooperative approaches. Article 6.2 facilitates transfer of internationally transferred mitigation outcomes between host and partner country to help countries meet their NDCs. India, which is considered as the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases, though in absolute terms only, as rapidly growing economy, it's well positioned to draw benefits from Article 6.2. The country has had a challenge in balancing its developmental goals with its climate commitments due to lack of adequate finance and also a lack of support from developed countries. India's NDC inter alia include ambitious targets such as reducing emissions intensity by 45%, emissions intensity by 45%, reducing emissions intensity by 45% by 2030. However, the financial and technical constraints are considerable as just before COP29, India reiterated its call for the developed nations to mobilize at least $1 trillion annually in climate finance for developing countries to meet the challenges of global warming. It is an opportune time for India as it moves to its domestic emissions trading scheme, launched a carbon credit trading scheme in 2023 with an aim of integrating market mechanism into a national policy. While not directly linked to Article 6.2, the CCTS proposes to strengthen India's institutions by providing a framework for transparent carbon credit tracking and verification. India's prior experience with the Clean Development Mission carbon voluntary carbon market, energy saving certificates, and renewable energy certificates has laid the groundwork for an effective engagement with international carbon markets under Article 6.2. India has identified 14 key sectors for international collaboration, which include renewable energy, energy storage, and carbon capture, utilization, and storage programs. These technologies, such as green hydrogen and sustainable aviation fuel, require advanced expertise, research, and significant investment. Engaging ITMO transactions under the Article 6.2 gives India the opportunity to meet its SDGs by transferring surplus emissions reduction certificates to partner countries through different unique project implementations. There are also co-benefits such as reducing health problems and enhancing incomes through green jobs. On the other hand, by encouraging South-South cooperation, India can also generate ITMOs while facilitating investments in key sectors. Article 6.2 offers India an opportunity to unlock large-scale climate finance through South-South cooperation. Countries under pressure to meet stringent NDCs can purchase ITMOs, internationally transferred mitigation outcomes, from India, generating financial resources for climate-resilient projects for green energy development. For example, India's renewable energy sector attracted over $10 billion investment in foreign direct investment in 2022. Further ITMO transactions could scale up these efforts for other developing countries. The new collective quantified goal also encourages such South-South cooperation as developing countries have been extending climate finance to other developing countries on a voluntary basis. While India signs Memorandum of Understanding with developed countries to facilitate ITMO transfers, there is a strong case for India to focus on building partnerships with African nations. India as partner country and Africa as host country. India, with its vast renewable energy potential and urgent climate vulnerabilities, is ideal for South South cooperation. Many African nations face severe impacts from climate change, particularly in agriculture and water resources. India's close partnership with African governments, extending to trade, investment, and development projects, strengthen this case. Under the 10 Principles for India Africa Engagement, enunciated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a key pillar is economic cooperation, emphasizing sustained engagement, creating local capabilities, enhancing agricultural productivity, and addressing climate change. India is well positioned to help the region. The sharing of ITMOs between India and partner countries will depend on agreement specifics reflecting India's role as host country and developed partners, contributions to technology and capacity building, which are also aligned with the common but differentiated responsibilities, and respective capabilities (CBDR-RC). The share ratio may vary based on each other's parties' contributions. India could claim a larger share if it extends significant financial or technical inputs. A similar approach is seen in the joint crediting mechanism, where credit allocation is decided through mutual consultation based on contributions to GHG reductions. Japan typically offers technology, funding, and capacity building, while the host country implements the project. ITMO sharing offers opportunities for international cooperation, but at the same time, it also presents challenges for India. Developed nations might rely on low cost emission reductions from India, potentially avoiding significant domestic decarbonization efforts and shifting costly mitigation burdens onto India. Additionally, inadequate transparency and governance in ITMO mechanisms may lead to inefficiencies and can accentuate inequities. Trump and the world nations across the world appear to be transfixed by the idiosyncratic announcements flowing one after the other from the Trump 2.0, the 47th US president's imperialistic proposal to own the Gaza Strip and reallocate the population to other countries deserve an instant and outright response from the Arab world and countries such as India, which have all along been advocating two-state solution to the Palestine crisis. It is appalling that someone who is in a position of influence would make immoral and offensive jokes, particularly against parents who deserve utmost respect in society. Case registered after Roe breaks over YouTubers comment. Public figures, especially those with large following, have a responsibility to set a positive example. This is not just an issue of bad humor, but also reflects a dangerous trend where so-called influencers think they can get away with anything. Freedom of speech does not mean the license to insult and degrade others. I read the interview with renowned composer Raja. I was not an Indian or Tamil film music composer when I wrote Symphony Valiant and wished to make my observation on the London Symphony being conducted by none other than Emperor of Music. Almost 15 years ago, I had proposed prestigious sabhas in Chennai city or having a Carnatic symphony orchestra with one of the Sangeeta Kalanidhis as the artist directors. Addressing the growing threat of forest fires. As for wildfires swept through Los Angeles last month, destroying homes and causing casualties and displacements, the urgency of addressing and preventing forest fires took center stage once again. Unfortunately, forest fires became a point of conversation only when some major incident causes irrevocable damage and captures media and public attention. The forest fires are a stark reminder that no place is immune from their impacts and that we need a clear pathway to prevent and manage them as their frequency increases. In India, the situation is equally alarming. According to Forest Survey of India, more than 36% of the country's forest cover is prone to fire. An analysis by the Council of Energy, Environment and Water states that there has been a tenfold increase in the forest fire incidences in the last 2 decades. Living on the fringes in the Corbett Tiger Reserve in Uttarakhand, I see the immense value of India's forests, not just as critical enablers of wildlife conservation and sources of biodiversity, but as lifelines for local communities. According to various reports, nearly 90% of these fires are caused by human activities such as deliberate land clearing, slash and burn agriculture, and unattended campfires. These factors, coupled with climate change driven factors such as rising temperatures and extended dry spells, intensify the risk of forest fires. Forest fires have widespread consequences, natural, social, and economic, and they are all connected. Besides the direct loss of trees, wildfire, and biodiversity, they contribute significantly to carbon emission. A report by the World Resources Institute estimates that the Indian forest fire emit approximately 69 million tons of CO2 annually. Forest fires result in a loss of timber, and non-timber forest products, essential for forest-dependent communities contributing to direct economic losses. A 2018 report by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change estimated that forest degradation, including forest fires, results in an annual economic loss of approximately 1.74 lakh crore. Forest fires also disrupt the water cycle, cause soil fertility degradation, and worsen human wildlife conflict as animals seek refuge in human settlements. India has put in place several policies and schemes to address forest fires. Forest fire management, such as the National Action Plan on Forest Fires and a Forest Fire Prevention and Management Scheme. The centrally sponsored scheme assists state governments in strengthening their forest fire prevention and management capabilities. However, given the growing intensity of forest fires in India, much more remains to be done. First, budget constraints have proven to be an obstacle. The FMPMS, Forest Fire Prevention and Management Programs funding allotment has fluctuated. 2019-20, it received 46 crore. The planned allocation for 24-25 is 50 crore. So this shows the need for a more steady support. On technology front, the existing forest fire alert system cannot distinguish between forest fire and other type of fires, delaying ground level uh, validation and response. India could use advanced predictive modeling to help identify high risk areas based on the climate and geographic data. This must be supplanted by drones equipped with thermal imaging cameras to monitor fire prone areas. Assess damaged states such as Tamil Nadu and Odisha have already piloted such initiatives. In addition, there is merit in also exploring how relevant the existing data from Forest Survey of India and IMD and the ISRO can be integrated and analyzed for better forest fire management, equipping more and more local communities to collect and share real-time data to report forest fire as soon as they are sighted. Through mobile applications, toll-free helpline and SMS-based systems can strengthen key warning systems. India can also draw from Nepal's community forest user groups and Indonesia's Fire Free Village program to strengthen community forest fire management. Forest fires are not just an environmental issue, they are a societal and economic, affecting livelihoods, health and foundation of the ecosystems. Karnataka's critical information infrastructure has come under the attack again. Kaveri 2.2, a web portal that was launched in 23 to streamline property registrations, came under distributed denial of service attack carried through artificial intelligence. AI-powered bots recently. A denial of service attack occurs when legitimate users are unable to access information system devices and other network resources due to attacks on malicious cyber threat actor. Why DDoS attack occurs when multiple machines are operating together to attack one target. The DDoS attack crippled the portal, bringing property registrations across Karnataka almost to an halt for many days in January and February. This is not for the first time that state's critical information infrastructure has come under attack. In 2017, Karnataka State Data Center fell victim to WannaCry ransomware attack, which spreads by exploiting vulnerabilities in the Windows operating system. Religious groups that have sued the Trump administration 27 the growth in net direct tax collection till February 10-15%. The increase in IRCTC PAT, what is PAT? For profit after tax 13%. How will freeze on US aid affect the world? Why is US administration halting foreign assistance and scaling back personnel for the United States agency. The USAID, set up as an independent agency through an act of Congress, it was an attempt to align US efforts to administer civilian foreign aid. In India, quantum of funding has reduced over the years, with the government of India objecting to certain aspects of the conditions. While health remains the main sector where USAID has been involved in India with funding of $79 million, it has also interest in economy, energy, water supply, sanitation. Michael Jackson, the artist, was picked up by the Diana Ross, named the hit TV show Friends. The halftime event during the first Super Bowl, Rihanna. Toponymy is the study of place names. Economy on speedy rebound, India to remain the fastest growing nation. Rajnath tells global firms to develop co-advanced systems. Advanced defense systems in India, not confident of Hull, says IFG's chief over delivery delays. Civil Aviation Minister takes sortie on trainer aircraft. GE Aerospace signs contract with IAF for 1700 engines. Russia offers to partner with India for joint production of Su-57 fighter. Products developed in-house by service innovators catch eyeballs. India 57 countries call for inclusive and sustainable AI. Mobilizing labor for infrastructure building getting tough, attrition high. People prefer not to migrate as schemes such as welfare schemes and direct tax benefit transfers make them reluctant to leave home. North Korea has given Russia 200 long-range artillery pieces, at least 55 civilians killed by militia fighters in northeastern Congo. Gaza truce under strain after Trump's warning. Maldives to finalize trade pact with India soon, says Minister Saeed. Manipur crisis drags on BJP ways in options. History show technology won't take away work. Don't erase or reload EVM data, says Supreme Court. Trump pauses Foreign Bribery Act in a possible reprieve for Tani and others. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.